Wait for Mr. Street. We ready? I think we are. I'd like to call this hearing to order. The purpose of this public hearing is to receive public comments on the proposed ordinance to increase our hotel motel tax from 5% to 8%, with an effective date of July 1st, 2023. Mr. Streetman, would you just present a brief summary of the subject that we're going to discuss?
I can, yes, ma'am. Madam Mayor, Council, everybody in attendance, good morning. Our current rate is 5%, and it's been that way since 2004, when it was increased from 3%. And just a little history, last year, Raven County, Fort Raven, and all the cities within got together and we talked about increasing the percentage from 5% to 8%. Many of the surrounding counties and cities have done that. And so a resolution of support was presented to our local representatives, Senator Hatchett and Representative Anderson. And the Georgia General Assembly at their session this year approved or authorized the city and other cities in Raven County to go to 8% with effective date of July 1st of this year. And to finalize, that requires the city to adopt an ordinance of the 8%. And just to give you a little history and perspective of real dollars, in 2022, from January till December, we took in approximately $100,000 in hotel motel. You do the math, that would, if you estimate that out, that would be about $2 million of gross accommodation receipts. Of which 5%, we took in 100,000. We dispersed 40,000 or 40%, 2/5 of that to Fort Raven. We put 60,000 of that into the bank general fund. If it had been 8%, that would have generated approximately $160,000 to the city. Now the breakdowns will change, and I do want to share that. At 8%, the state of Georgia is very specific on how that's spent. So 3.58 of that, or 43.75% would go to a designated economic development such as Fort Raven. 3/8 or 37.5% would go to general fund, general government. And then 1.58 or 18.75% would need to go towards designated brick and mortar type facilities. So to put that back into real dollars, if this had been 8% for last year, the 160,000, 70,000 would have gone to Fort Raven, 60,000 would have gone to the general fund, and 30,000 would have gone to brick and mortar type things such as pickleball courts, parks, visitor centers. So this request is simply, or this public hearing is to receive comments about going to 8%. All of the other cities in the county have gone to 8%. The county has gone to 8%. Many of the surrounding communities have gone to 8%. So it's not like this is going to put the city at any advantage or disadvantage. This is just more of a housekeeping formality that we have to do this. So I'll just stop there.
So to recap, the exclusive 18.75% of the 8% taxes is for brick and mortar, and that is not part of the 5% tax, correct?
Well, it would be, the distributions are different.
Right.
At the current 5% rate,
Yeah.
2/5 has to go to economic development.
Right.
3/5 will go to general fund. At the 8%, 3.58 or 3.58 would go towards economic development. 3/8 would go towards general government, and then 1.58 would go to brick and mortar. So it's a little bit different breakdown, but still generates more revenue and it gives the city the ability to do more things without putting so much of the burden on the general fund itself.
Wow. Any comments or questions from the council? Okay,
Paul,
yeah, go ahead.
I was around when this was first initiated in our county. We didn't have a hotel motel tax until 10 or 12 or 14 years ago, whatever it was. And I was at the Chamber of Commerce then, and there was a pretty big uproar from local business owners, D&D, about how it would devastate their, people wouldn't come. And
Probably like 2 people there than the meeting people.
truth is, it had really no impact on it. It just didn't affect it. You know, it was something that everybody thought would be a problem, but it turned out not to be at all. And so once it happened, you just didn't hear any more about it. You know, just everybody just accepted it and moved on.
Any other comments or questions from the council?
Just to say that I think there's a straight line between this increase and the marketing efforts that we're undertaking. I think we've been hearing for some time about the burden that the increase in short-term rentals has put on the police department. And I've heard concerns about overloading our septic capacities. And homes that are fully occupied over the course of the year are obviously going to require more city services than homes that are not. So I see a direct relationship between the costs imposed and where the taxes are coming from. Now, over the course of the years, I've observed that our budgeting process is based on identifying what the expenses of the city are going to be, and then adjusting our tax rate to cover those anticipated expenses. So that if, as is common wisdom, the financial resources that are allocated to cities, namely the property tax, has generally been insufficient for most city governments. And now that the legislature is increasing the variety of taxes that are available to municipalities, it seems to me that the net result of this particular action would be to raise the possibility that we could decrease property taxes or would not have to increase property taxes by this amount. So in terms of, public finance, I think this is progress for the state of Georgia.
Thank you, Jim. Anybody else on the council? Good morning. How are y'all this morning? Anybody else need to make a comment or ask a question in this hearing? Do we have anybody online that has?
Yes.
a comment?
Yes, we do.
Introduce yourself, please.
Yes, this is Carla Stahl, and lots of you know me. So my only I have a few comments and a few questions. First of all, I'm not necessarily opposed to the tax increase. My concern is that the way we collect our taxes for sales, rentals rather, is pretty antiquated. It's like the first 5 days or the first 10 days. I haven't had an active rental for a little while now, so I've forgotten the exact formula, but it's not straightforward, 8% or 5% on all the days up to 30 or whatever. I don't know if any of you have experience administering a rental yourself. I suspect you don't. But the issue is that that is not a formula that's conducive to calculating the taxes online, so that when people book the property, they know, okay, I'm paying this much to rent it, I'm paying this much in taxes, and I'm paying, this much to clean it, etc. The way our tax structure is collected, I have to go in manually to every rental. First of all, I have to inform them up front that this does not include our city tax because it's a different formula. And then I have to go in manually and send them an additional fee bill for our tax specifically because it's not, straightforward on a certain amount of days. And if we were collecting that, on the whole rental, we maybe would not have to increase to 8%. We would take in more rentals or more money at the 5% or 6%. It's a lot of paperwork for the owner. And I suspect, I know for a fact that the city does not collect taxes on all the rentals we have because people just aren't doing it. Either they're not aware or it's too much trouble and there's nobody monitoring who's paying and who isn't. So that's my next question is, it's twofold. In conjunction with this rate change, if it passes, can we revise our formula to make it a little bit easier for those of us who are managing our properties ourselves and not involving a management company, which is not what we want here, I don't think, because then they don't have a vested interest in the community. And secondly, who's going to monitor to make sure that everyone is paying it? And how are we going to pay? Is that going to be another full-time person? Or what is our procedure for monitoring that every rental in this valley is paying the tax?
Thank you, Carla. Jason, would you like to answer in reference to the state law on how it's collected and so forth?
By this ordinance, everything must be paid in by the 20th of the month. The other questions she has will be addressed in the short-term rental ordinance that we are in the process of doing, which is separate from this. This is just the tax breakdown. The tax, there's two different things going on here. This is just to go from 5 to 8%, but the other questions, concerns we have, or she has, should be addressed when we adopt the short-term rental ordinance that we hope to have adopted by next month. We are looking at utilizing, there are some companies out there that have the ability to better track, because obviously the city wants to make sure that every home that's being utilized as short-term rental is paying their fair share. Yes, sir.
Jason, I think her first question was, is there a breakdown for the first 5 days versus, or is it 8% straight through?
It would just be 8%. As I look at the ordinance, the update ordinance, the attorney, they just have to be submitted on or before the 20th of each month. So I'm not sure that if I understand her other question, it should just be, it's just 8%.
No, I don't think that's true. I think that there is it is like 8% for the first number of days, and after that, it's different. And so it's not just 8% of the total bill.
Correct. If you look at the form, it is not a straight formula, 8% of the total bill. It's definitely not.
I got a point of order, Madam Mayor. I think we're just talking about raising the rate in this.
Correct.
We're not talking about collection. And Carla, I encourage you to watch the short-term rental when it comes up, and then in that we will make corrections as we can.
Tim, I think that the formula that's used to calculate.
Formula. And if we enforce it on everyone for the full day, everyone else is easier. And even though I understand that it goes in that,
Carla, we're getting some feedback and we can't hear what you're saying. Go ahead, Tim.
I'm just gonna say that formula that is how you apply the 8% to what days is set by the state. That is the state statute, and we don't have any control over that. The only thing we can do is determine what our local rate will be.
Correct. I think that's what Tim was just saying.
So that could, that could be a follow-up. And I agree with Tim. We're just talking about today, the hearing purposes, whether or not we adopt or.
But Carla, we will address your questions when we get to the short-term rental ordinance, and I thank you for bringing those up.
okay, thank you.
excuse me? She said.
I just said thank you. Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, Carla. Anybody else need to make a comment or ask a question? As they say, we are just, the purpose of this public hearing is just to receive comments on the proposed ordinance to increase our hotel motel tax from 8% to 5%.
5%.
Yeah, that too. Thank you. Anybody else need to say anything? We have anybody else online? No, okay.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
while we're here and talking about this, I have a question about section 5, execution and FIFA. I have no idea what FIFA is or means, or if this is a typo or.
What say ye, Jason?
That is technical terminology that goes after enforcement of unpaid taxes. That's what FIFA and my guru on that is Monica. She's not in this meeting, but essentially that is the process to go after unpaid taxes. That's what that refers to, Councilor Curtis.
Okay,
We're not sure what an acronym means, but
I'll
we know the
read
general.
it again with that definition in
All
mind.
right.
Thank you.
It's the government. Yes, we know. Anybody else? Well, thank you all for your comments and your questions. So we'll close the meeting at this time. Required first reading of this ordinance will be held at our council meeting following this hearing today at 10 o'clock, and we'll have a second reading, which is mandated by the state. And we'll vote, and the vote on this on this tax increase will be scheduled for June the 27th. And with that, we are closed. And are y'all gonna stay for the 10 o'clock meeting? Guys, we have coffee